Remember when affirmative action began? I remember when it did. I was still in my early 20s, and yeah, I'm not that young. And I was all for it. I would tend to say, you know, I hate the terms conservative or liberal, but if I'm anything, it's generally liberal-minded with the idea of giving everybody a chance. I'm not liberal with, you know, socialist ideologies or anything like that. Or just, you know, I agree with the Republicans about certain things, and I agree with the Democrats on others and libertarians. I find something in all of the different political groups that I agree with. But, God, these people that spend all of their videos focusing on Zionism and the corruption that they believe is rooted in, you know, Jewish, what do you call it? The evil practices of Jewish individuals. There's a lot of information out there that if it's true, then there's truth, there's real truth to what they say. What's wrong about how they say it. It's just like, you know, that hateful talk, you know, you're not going to get anywhere with name calling. You always know a Jewish extremist when they just call someone a Nazi or an anti-Semitic, or when they start using those terms and they get all, you know, denying everything. It's like, no, there are facts that you could point to. Well, one thing that it never occurred to me before, remember when you were applying for school or something, and you applied for college, you know, and the time came for the SAT scores or ACTs, and when affirmative action talk came around, they wanted to get more blacks and Hispanics into the upper level colleges, Ivy League schools. You know, you went to Harvard and you hardly ever saw a black student. You know, just the basic facts about the races you can't talk about. You know, Asians and Jews tend to have very, very high, you know, they're high in degree of intelligence. They're just good at academic pursuits. They just are, naturally. And then if they really try, then they really excel. And, you know, for whatever reason, that's the case. The difference between Asians and Jews is, with regard to intelligence, is Jews are more, they got more humor, they got more social savvy. Asians are just kind of like computers. They just... You know, it's not they don't have any humor or anything, it's just that they're really socially awkward usually around all the other races, and Jews can fit in. You know, they can feel their way around about other people's habits and interests. The Asians are just, you know, they're real calculative and very, very cerebral like that. And when it came down to the affirmative action move, there had already been in the Ivy League a lot of anti-Semitism and just Jewish persecution with regard to the overrepresentation that the other students felt that the Jews had, especially at like places like Harvard and Princeton. It's a fascinating story, just like any of these horrible stories of history that most people don't know about, and they're not in history books, and you have to read alternative research to know about it. And it is fact. It's often in those school ledgers or in the microfilmed articles of newspapers at the time. In the 50s, in the 20s to the 50s, there was just a backlash with the Jewish students about how the Ivy League, you know, the Caucasians and Christians were upset with them and their behavior, and it was just the classic clash between Christians and Jews, or Protestant Christians and Jews, in America and in Europe. Well, they thought of a way to lessen, just change the balances of things. Because before that, it was, a lot of white Protestants in those schools, and everybody else was really in a minority. So, when you look at an affirmative action scenario, they have you put down your race, as if that should matter. We're talking about a college. This is about education, and if it's going to be under a grade system of how smart you are and how successful you are, then it's just about studying and taking tests, right? There shouldn't be race anything on the page for application. So this is politics, pure politics, racial politics. And what they did was, it was pretty brilliant, but when you're dealing with brilliant people, you tend to get brilliant ideas. They put the Jews in with the white people. So you see Jews, blacks, Hispanic, Arab. Oh, no, Arabs don't even get in. They usually got the other section. They might have, Arab, Indian slash, or Asian. Well, the admission requirements were all about the SAT scores. And lo and behold, the black kids had the lowest requirement for a score. The whites were the next. I don't know, the whites were... All the underrepresented races graded it going up. And then it was the whites, and then the Asians. And so, the Jews really didn't have a problem, scoring well in that, and they made those numbers basically on the averages of Jewish. They zeroed in on the average Jewish score. So it's the classic thing, like when a political party gets mad when an independent is getting a strong surge from the rest of the country in a presidential race. When you know he's not going to win, you know that they're taking votes away from another candidate who might have won otherwise. So, but that's the logic. Divide and conquer. Everyone thinks that affirmative action was about getting black kids into the schools. It was about getting the white kids out of the schools. Now that really made a difference. That overwhelming white dominance in the population of the schools is down. Completely down. And all the other races are up. And some people will say, well, that was the idea. But when we're talking about the merit of things, if we're talking about a racial issue, if this is all stemming from a racial issue between whites and Jews, to put the Jews in with the white people is ridiculous and an obvious stratagem, which should have been, fought against at the outset. One thing you can say for the Jewish population is they stick together. All those Jewish organizations that are heavily funded and well organized, you don't see that among white Europeans, and that is the difference. That is the difference. They stick together, they're loyal to each other, and it is racial. If you want to apply for something in Israel, you're definitely not going to have the Jews in the same little box as the white Europeans. And that's it. So when it comes to all those kinds of things, when people start sounding anti-Semitic, which you can't even talk about this without being called that, but these are obvious stratagems. It's like they bait you to get called an anti-Semite because that's what they want. They want to just be able to point their finger, to make everyone else point their finger at you as if you're bad, when what you're doing is pointing out something that was done badly first, calling you a racist because you're pointing out racism. But that's still the strategy, and the only way to fight all these groups that are well organized and well funded is have groups of your own that are well organized and well funded and are loyal to each other in the cause. One of the problems that white people have, and this might be the Achilles heel, is, you know, we're not all the same. The redheads are redheads, you know, I mean, the Russians are Russians, the French are French. But when it comes to the Arabs are Arabs. They really are, you know, they're very, very similar. There's differences between someone that's from Syria and Iraq, of course. But, you know, the Chinese, all of those different, there's lots of different types of Chinese people. And, you know, black people, a lot of it, when you've got the features, your skin and your hair and your eyes that are so similar, all those other races have these very specific features. They all have the same color hair. When you're dealing with Europeans, you got all different kinds of hair, all different kinds of eyes, all different kinds of moods and attitudes, and who knows what the reason is for that. There's probably some ancient reason that you could debate. But the Jews are a race. Like a very specific difference, genetically. It's an internal thing. You can see Jews with blonde hair, of course. But they've been in European society and the societies of other countries for hundreds and hundreds of years because of real persecution a long time ago. So they've got a lot of different, you know, a different mix from their heritage. But they consider themselves Jews for a very specific reason. Their internal talents and skills are very dominant. And they gravitate towards each other. And I've noticed this myself. You know, I'm part Jewish and have always been attracted to Jewish women. Always. And that's kind of when I can spot it. I'm never wrong. Never. When I like a girl, they've got a certain look in their eye, that brightness in the darkness of a Jewish woman's eyes is just gorgeous. But it's just, I can tell that internally that's an attraction that's genetic, and, you know, that she's my people, you know, I mean, I know what it's like, you know, since I've been admitting in my videos that I've got Jewish blood, you know, I've been getting all the anti-Semitic comments. You're just a liar Jew, you're just a liar Jew. So, I mean, I know what anti-Semitism, burning anti-Semitism feels like. I know what it feels like. And I started saying that, I thought, I'm asking for it, you know. You can't do that. You're not going to get anywhere talking like that. But, you know, you won't see those comments on my page. I delete them, but I get a lot of them. A lot of them. What I'm getting down to is the truth of the matter. And, you know, how, you know, we're facing a world moment, and come any second, a big conflict that I'm afraid of happening. I want justice. And we can alleviate so many people's frustration by getting the claws of the corruption out of their lives. And if you can get down to the actual reasons behind all of these dominant modes of corruption that are keeping people down, then we got a chance of exposing it and prosecuting it and changing it and eliminating the problem so everybody can live in peace.